you start out in Photoshop with what we're going to do, okay? And so the reason why these two programs are so important, and you know, whatever semester you are in at WCC, I do teach a class in just Photoshop. And and that's called digital imaging. So I do believe that it can be accepted as an elective if you want to take it. So, you know, and I hope you guys remember this. If you're taking 12 credits, you're paying your tuition as a full-time student. If you happen to take another class, which leads you up to 15, you could take it for non-credit and not be stressed out about the work because, you know, you really want to, you know, get an A in all the other 12 credits. So that's something to always remember, that sometimes people don't tell you. And if you're able to do the work, then of course you want to take it for credit. But it's very good to take, so you can kind of sit in on something that you kind of want to know about, but you don't want to, you know, stress yourself out because your schedule's already, and you're not paying more. That's the point. You are not paying more. Same thing with internships. When you are 12 credits and you want to take an internship, you take an internship, but you're not paying for it as a credit class. It is a credit class, but you're not paying for it because a lot of places won't take you unless you're for credit. So anyway, so it's a little tip that I like to tell my students as well. Okay, so the first thing on this particular instance, we can just open up the file. So that's what I'm going to do. And let's do that. Okay. So here's a couple of real important things about imaging. Is as soon as you get into Photoshop, you must really, the two windows you must have, similar to Illustrator, are your layers. So you get this lock situation. Just double click it. That's important. So then the other thing you want to do is you can duplicate this. Right click, and now Illustrator doesn't do that. I wish it would. But right click and you duplicate. And you kind of just turn one off so you don't mess it up. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the pattern. So then you can come up here to image. Now here's really important. So the problem with a lot of digital people, new digital people, I have to say, is that they don't look at what the document actually is. They just look at the picture. Like, oh, that picture looks great. That must be perfect. You never make that assumption. You always have to look at the specs of what something is. Because what you see is not always what you get or what you expect. So the only way you can tell what you have in reality in Photoshop is you come up here to image, image size. Image size tells me exactly what I have. Not what I see, but exactly what I have. So I have something that's 72 dpi, so it's, you know, it's low resolution, it's web is what we call web resolution, and it's only 750 pixels and 125 pixels. Now the step that I'm going to show you, which is sort of what I call the back door, is when you have a low resolution photograph and you've got to get it big, you can bring your photograph into Illustrator and do an image trace, high definition image trace, not like black and white or, you know, the way we've been working. High definition. You can actually get your bitmap to look like a photograph, but actually be a vector. And then you can scale it up without the loss of resolution. So I'll show you that when we bring it in that aspect. So this is reality, this is here. So that's just to let you know what we're working with. So if you wanted to change this, and I'm only, and the things that I'm talking about is for print. Not for web. Web is really a lot of wiggle room, a lot of wiggle room. Print has no wiggle room whatsoever. Print is unfortunately too close to reality. And so you have to live with what you have, and you can't make things bigger or you lose the resolution. So if I change this, sometimes this resampling is on. You really want to toggle it off, because if I wanted to change this to say 300 resolution, which is for photographs, which is for print, look how big this file is. It can only get 2 inches in print, because it actually is a good resolution picture. But if I wanted it bigger, if I wanted it to be high resolution for printing, look how, so this means that it's not distorting the image. Photoshop is not distorting the image. If I wanted 150, which you kind of can get away with in print, I get it to 5:7. But for web, I can do 72, but it's not print. And this does not change. So this is something that you cannot change. You can change anything, but you don't want to distort it. And that's the problem, is people go, well, I changed it. It's like, yeah, you changed it and you distorted it. And so it's no good. And they go, but the size is correct. Yeah, the size is correct, but your resolution is corrupted. You can't use it. So you have to be careful about that. So that's why photographers are so, important. So they can give you high resolution. Okay, so having said that, that's just important for image. So now what we want to do is we want to help image trace so we can turn this into a pattern, so we can fill anything we design with it. So the way to do that is a couple of things. So one, we're going to turn it to black and white, because what black and white does is it lets you shade it to be whatever color you want it to be. In Illustrator, right? Not in Photoshop, in Illustrator. So let's get this to Illustrator. So you want to go up here, what we call black and white. And there we have it changed. Then the other component is we want to make it very contrasty. So we bring up to image again, adjust to levels. And with levels, you can push it. Push the white, then push the black. And what you're trying to do is really get it as black and white as much as possible. And you kind of, see, this is at an angle. You kind of want to get it as straight as possible. Now, how do I do that? Remember, you have your rulers. So just like in Illustrator, we want our rulers, and they are visible, always under view. And so I'm going to bring this up. So, and these are guides, mouse down, these are guides. So I'm trying to get enough of the pattern so that when I crop this, I can find the seam to make it be seamless. So let's zoom in. So think about what this pattern is doing for us now. This V, and then the tags on the side here are connecting to the other tags on the other side. So I'm trying to find something that will give us the feel. So on here, let's bring this in a little bit more. So you see this line is straight, that's good. And you see then this line might pick it up, which is good, so it's on the other side. So when you're doing patterns, this is what we're looking for, because this bottom is going to meet this bottom. So there you go. You see right here, that bottom is open, wide open. So that is wide open on here. This is wide open. And then this will meet it. See, just like this. There's that meet right in there. So I think this is a good one right here. So, so I'm going to copy that. Where am I? Copy, copy, copy. Just copy, copy. And then I'm going to do paste in place. And that did not work. Oh, I know why. Because I didn't do my marching ants. I was looking at the guide. So I have to get my marching ants. So we call these marching ants like this. I have my guide now. And so I didn't make my marching ants. Marching ants is a good name for it. And so now I have the marching ants. Now I can go up here to copy. And I have my copy. And then I do my paste in place. And what it does is it creates just a layer. Now at this point, I can kind of test to see, is this a good sample or not to make a pattern? So Alt key down, just like in Illustrator. That's looking pretty good. And I'm linking them together. And that's looking pretty good. So I'm happy with this. So now I can zoom out, fit on screen. And at this point, I could, I don't want to overwrite this. So I haven't saved it. At least I don't think I have. And so I'm going to save this on here. It's where I want to be. And you see, I had the prefix already. So again, remember your file naming. Fashion has as many files as animation. So trust me, you want to create your good habits now. Whenever you're working on something, always give it a number. The higher number is your last edit. And then you can delete the lower ones when you need space. And I'm going to make it a PSD. Remember, JPEGs do not save your layers. And we live for layers. We always want a layer. So if you have to delete anything, delete your JPEGs, not your PSDs or your AIs. Okay, so now we have that. And so I'm just going to take the crop tool here. Say, okay. I'm going to take the crop tool, which is right over here. And on this toolbar, remember the 3 dots. If you click it, just come up here to advance. Right there. Right, just do restore defaults. And that will give you all the bells and whistles that you want on Photoshop. And that's the way I like to work. You don't want some hidden tool that you need and you didn't know you didn't even know it existed. So you want all your tools to be loaded up in the toolbar. So let's crop this. So I'm going to crop this down because I don't need to have it this big. And then it won't wig out Illustrator either. And oops, that's the guide. Bring this up. Yeah, and then double click. All right, save as. And you can keep it PSD. You don't have to, I'm just going to call it swatch. You don't have to make it a JPEG, just because Illustrator will accept a PSD.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm curious, why do we need to keep a PSD?
Well, that's a good question, Crystal. When you work with software programs, they all have extensions of like Word document, .docx, right?
Yeah.
PDFs, .pdfs.
Yeah.
JPEG. So PSD tells you it belongs to Photoshop. It's the authoring.
Oh, okay, got it.
It's the editing one. It's not universal. Like you cannot send someone a PSD unless they have Photoshop.
Yeah.
So the reason why those are the most important files is because you can always generate a JPEG off a PSD or a PDF off of a PSD. Nothing can create a PSD but Photoshop.
Okay, got it. That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's why we call it, I call it the authoring document, the editing document. And those are the most important things. I mean, those are like your canvas, your original paintings. You don't want to lose them. Okay, so now we have that, and I have to stop. And we're going to go now to Illustrator. And we're in Illustrator. Let's open this up. And no, I don't want to open it up. What am I doing? I want to make a new file. You can't open up a PSD in Illustrator. So I don't know what I was thinking. I need to place it. I need to import it. So I'm going to go new and always look at this. You know, this is your deliverable. I always like to work in 13 by 19 when I'm in Illustrator or Photoshop because it's a nice size. And, you know, for professional work, you always want to keep it 300, but you know, those things get big. Okay, so now we have this. Let me save it. Always save your files immediately as soon as you create them. And then you always have your, for you know, right-handed people, your left hand is always in the lower left corner of your keyboard and so forth. And please, if you have a laptop, do not use a trackpad. Get yourself a mouse. You can't work with a trackpad whatsoever. It's really awful, and you'll create carpal tunnel. So I want to bring in that photograph. No, I want to save. I didn't save this yet. That's what I did not do. Okay. And the other thing, when you see how I have multiple files, you want to save them with the same file name as the related situation. So like I can't see the name of that file, but I do remember it was knit up large swatch, and I'll call it 01 because it'll be Illustrator or 2. Then again, the best way to bring things in is place. So now I will do that. Now I often don't look at the images simply because I like to just look at the file naming. So let me change that. Whoops. To details, because I can come up here and just hit date. And supposedly it should give me, there it goes, it should give me what I want. And see, there you have the parameters right here. So this is an AI file, and this is a PSD file. And so I've got my PSD, and that's what I want. And where are you? There you are. So Zoom takes some time. Okay. So now I want to show you, let me bring in that other thing to show you that high definition thing. So let me place again. Let me place the JPEG. Yeah, let's bring the JPEG in. All right, so this is bigger. And this is of good. So we'll see. We'll see how this looks with the knit as well. So let's fit all in window. Let's get our layers up. You can't work without layers. Let's open this up. Let's turn this off. And let's just focus on this. Okay, so now we want our image trace. And we want to open it up so we can see. So now here, what we're trying to do is let's try to get the 16 colors. See how that, and then try to get a little more. But then if you went to high fidelity, and let's do grayscale. Let's do, and we'll do the other one with color too. So you see, this is not doing so good, right? Not really happening for us. But don't forget, it's a very big close-up on this. And one of the things you can do is, so we can take this away and do undo. It kind of goes through all of the ones that you did. What you could do is you could begin to paint, or let's see how this does, right? We were down here, because I'm not happy the way this one is happening. Where did it go? Where did it go? Let's keep this there. Right, okay, good. Let's keep this over here. Okay. And so now we're gonna take this one and we're just gonna use the image trace and see what happens. This one almost looks like it did get vectorized, but I don't think so. All right, let's do the image trace on this. And there we go. And let's see. High fidelity. See, what I would do on this is, yeah, you see, it's not that great, even with the actual photograph. So let's take it away a little bit. Is you really have to get strong contrast. So let me just get this. This is where the other tools to play with in there. That's much better. You see how that's getting a lot better? Let's push these again. Let's do the paths, low. So once we get this swatch, the important thing is the cropping that we did is really critical because no, that is not what we want. We very curvy. Let's get it. See how curvy is. You want, you know, making a good pattern is when all four sides are matching each other. And that is much, I think in the middle is better. So image trace does take time, as you can see, especially when it's full color like this. Now, the next thing I'm going to try to do is to get it to be gray, because then that's easier for us when we want to change. Yeah, that's much better. Let's see what the corners do. Let's do high corners. But what I like about that, you can actually try to make your very own with your brush. And on this one, I would use a blob brush for this because it's very blobby. So that's why it's really perfect. And then you can erase some of the edges. All right, that's a little better. It's better right around here. Let's see what noise does. So what we're doing is we're going to build that swatch again. Nah, not good. Definitely no noise. So the more you use this, each picture requires more or less of each of those tools. So that's why when you get this to work with a knit, that might be the same controls that the knit has. So I think I'm good with this. Let's see what this looks like if we went to shades of gray. Not really, right? And so that didn't give us enough color. Wait, hold on. If that didn't give us enough color, what if we gave it more color? Sometimes you don't always want reality because a photograph would be better than something in Illustrator in that aspect. So that's why in some way, I think that in 16 colors, I don't think is going to do it either. Because I think 16 colors is what the monochromatic is. Let's see how it goes. No. See, so really, your high fidelity is going to be your best. And if you notice, high fidelity has paths and corners in the middle. We have a little too much in the 85. It didn't go back to the original. Oh, that's actually better. I'm going to do a little bit more of this. Are we happy with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is close enough, right? You can see how many minutes you can spend on this. Yeah, I'm totally happy with this. And if you stand back from your monitor, it really looks like a photograph. Okay, so we're gonna go with this. So now let's, what we need to do at this point, we need to bring in the guides. So let's put our rulers in. Show rulers. Kind of where we were before. And just to give us an idea, so when we expand this, we're along the same lines as we were before. And let me bring this down. So we have this. So you see, I'm looking at this V and then that middle part. And then down here, this V kind of looks a little better up here. So you see, I have the N here, but down here is better because you see this goes straight line. And then on this, I'd say about here. And let's bring this down. So that this comes over here. Let's get this right there. So that meets. And then it doubles up here. Okay. So at this point, what I want to do is let's save, of course. And let's highlight this. You see, that's my image. So I'm going to duplicate it because what if I mess up, right? Duplicate image tracing. Yes. So I'm going to turn off, lock it. So I know that's a duplicate. That's my methodology. When I duplicate something as a backup, I just lock it and turn it off. And then I know that's my backup. And I'm going to click this. And then you go to Object, Image Trace, Expand. And then sometimes something like this can wig out, which is why I want to crop everything. And then what we want to do is we want to ungroup it. And then you get a billion layers. And hopefully I won't crash. Okay, so let's fit on screen. And what I want to do is I want to delete quite a bit. Let's turn off this one situation, which is this guy. We don't need that. And at this point, you want to just take your marquee and grab as close as you possibly can get, like that, and delete. And what happened? I turned my guides off on my horizontals. Did I lose them or did I delete them? I think I deleted them. Yeah. Or they were in the other one. I don't know. Anyway, let's bring them back. Let's bring it up about here. Sometimes it's kind of very good to zoom out. You see actually better when you are zoomed out. Okay. And then again, get as close as you can. And then, oh, you know what? I keep hitting the, all right, you know what's happening, just to show you why is this happening to me. I did not lock my guides. So when I selected it, I selected my guides as well. So you want to lock your guides. Now you can lock them up there, or you can lock them here, like I just did. Right now, my guides, and that's what happened. I deleted them before because I did not lock them. Okay, so this raggedness might be really okay. This might work for me. And again, remember, let's look and fill it all in one paste it. You see how good that looks when it's far away? It really looks like the knitted situation. But I'm really, now you could copy this, right? I could drag, I can drag and drop this. I can drag and drop this into the swatch just like this. And I'll show you how to go a little bit deeper in the pattern. But at this point, what I could do also is I could group this, you see? It has everything but my guides and that other image below. It's locked, so that's why it's not grabbing it. And I can come up here to group. And then it kind of makes it, so you could say here, vertical, vertical. In other words, it's straight. And then you could come up here and then you could say duplicate, double click and say, 45-degree angle or 180, or just rotate. Vertical, no, horizontal. That's what I would want. So then I would turn this off, grab this, rotate it so that now it's going to be like this. Let me go back again. It's hard when you can't see it, right? Yeah, so we're up in here and now we want to go sideways, right? So we go E. And you can come up here to your controls where my angle, where's my rotate? My rotate should be here. You can actually rotate it to be what you want it to be. That's inches width, high, Windows info. There you go. And you see, there's my degree. And so you can see, you can turn it to be 90, which is what we want. And that's good. And then deselect. So now you see I'm going sideways. So that's why you can make different swatches depending on, how the fabric is flowing. And the same thing with an angle. You would duplicate it and make it for an angle. All right, so let's get this into the swatch and let's see if it takes it. It might not, we might have to trim it down because there's so many points in here, as you can see. I mean, it's a high definition, and let's see if it accepts it. You need your swatches. And let's drag and drop it. It did. It took it. Nice. Now this is horizontal. So now let me turn that one off and turn this one on. And there. Now, what I did, let me go back to that, because I always forget this, is interesting that it didn't take the whole thing, so I don't know what's going on with that. But let's see what, yeah, let's see what happened here. Hold on. This is pretty solid. But you see, on here, I'm going to double click this. You're not double clicking this, right? That just takes us into the design of the program. And I think, Crystal, we talked about this. You see in the upper left-hand corner, it's taking us deeper and deeper into the layers. But we don't want that. We want the pattern tool. So double click the swatches. And now you are in, let me close things out so it doesn't look so confusing. Now you are in, and you can see in the upper left-hand corner, you are in the pattern swatch, and this is the pattern window. So now what this does is you see, you can do brick by brick, or you can do offset, quarter offset. You can also do, what do you call it? All these different ones here. Now I want to ask you something. Here we go, getting a little closer. I want to ask you something. Tell me how you think I could fix this with those gaps. What's your good guess?
Using a brush? I'm just guessing.
Well, definitely with a brush, no question about it. But in some way, I like how this is connecting here. You know, all of these, as we see this, I am liking this the best, right? But you see, I lose my offset. Copies. One by. So the best way is, so to answer that question, what it means is that my pattern right here is the problem. I have to fill that up. And the same thing here. And the same thing here. Because once this is filled, I don't have those gaps. You see what I mean? So you could do it with a, you know, you kind of like use your blob brush and get in there and kind of make that same pattern, or you could pick it up from any of these and copy paste it and put it under it and then group it together because they're all in different paths. And that's how you would fix it. Because good tiling has no gaps. And it's just because my design had a gap. So a couple of things you can do now. Watch, you see this is octagonal, right? Can you see the blue line that's down here?
Yeah.
So that already is, this is what the software is telling you that it's doing. So it's like, okay, wait a minute. This software takes what I've given it and have put it into an octagonal shape. And because my pattern has holes in it, it's showing me that. So now I know that if I make an octagonal shape right to the very edge, it's matching it on the other side. So that this is another octagonal right here. So the line of the octagonal would come down here like this. So you see, now we have that octagonal, and this is going to make another octagonal. And so that's why when we do brick by column, this is straight ahead. And this one I don't think is as good as a brick by column or brick by row. That's kind of nice. It kind of changes things up. It mixes and matches, right? Depending on the shuffle, as we would like to call it. But the grid, you know, is too much like a postage stamp. So really, the by row or by column, right? But that's what you have to do. You have to fix the gaps up. And so now I'm going to come out of it. Let's save a copy. Yeah. And now I have this. Now let's zoom out and let's fill it with a shape and see what happens. So fit all in window. And so if do I have something here? Let me see. Yeah. Let me grab this. Control C and Control V. Okay. Now here, you can see right from here, this brings over my design from my other file. And you see it puts it right into my swatches here, because Shift key, always remember that Shift key. And where's my layers? Layers, layers, layers. Let's turn that swatch off. Yeah. Let's get rid of this. Okay, now, here's what's interesting. I'm taking the color of that swatch, right? So you see, I would go, like what I would do now that I've done this would be what, my experience would be, is I would go back and just get the, well, you can still use the color. You don't have to make it black and white. You can take this to be any color you want it to be. But I'm using it to be a background, so I want to duplicate this. And you can't right click. They should have a right click here, but they don't. Anyway, you have to come up here, duplicate. So now here I would say back, not back to us, behind, solid. And then here on this one, we want the swatch. And there you have it. Ooh, that's looking pretty good. I don't know if that's the knit that you want, but you see, Angie, what we're talking about, right? And you see, I covered up this thing. Let me grab this. Turn this off, go a little bit darker. So that when I turn this back on. Nice, nice. Nice, huh, folks?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's a pretty long process, but it's good.
Well, that's why I videotaped it, right?
Yeah.
That's why I videotaped, folks. Steps are important. You can stop it and start it. But look how good that looks. Now, obviously, it's not perfect, You can kind of fix it up, but sometimes you can kind of work with those happy accidents. Maybe you could do something different where, you come here and you make this a whole different color. Maybe let's make it black. That might do something. Come on, guy.
So, Professor, you were on Photoshop before this?
Yeah.
So, do you have to go to Photoshop before and then?
Well, in this instance, I did not.
Okay.
Here's where, someone like myself, I'm not sure. You know what I mean? I'm not, because usually when you do image trace, usually the image that you have does not have enough contrast. You see my point? And so I need to kind of pump up the volume in Photoshop to get the contrast. But in actuality, this worked better in the contrast that it was in.
Okay.
So that's why every circumstance is always different. But like this could have not worked. And then I would say, oh, I got to get it into Photoshop and fix it up, make it better. Because you have to remember, Photoshop fixes up photographs. Illustrator can convert photographs to be vectors. So now I can take this thing, literally both these things. I can take the two of them and make it a scale. Let's watch. See, okay, so now this is in the layer. I do want this. So I'm going to select these two and I'm going to shift key. And you see, I can get this as big as I want. And let's bring this into Photoshop to see what it looks like. Okay. And then we'll be ready for our break soon. See, I like what I did with the black, right? It kind of makes it makes a nice pattern, which could be very.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool.
See, that's what I like. This is what I call, I live for happy accidents. It's like, I have a good idea, but sometimes my happy accidents are great ideas. So I keep myself open-minded and kind of just go with the flow of the tool and let that relationship happen between, my discovery of working with something and then, and then, see, like, what, I wonder what would happen if I did this. Boom. Yeah, much better. You can always undo, there's no worries. Literally, it's totally stress-free because you can undo and undo and undo. Okay, the only times you have a worry is if you can't remember what you did with the file. That's when you get into file naming and get yourself really organized, because that's the best part. So let's make this a JPEG. I'm dying to see what it's going to look like in Photoshop. And we could put this on somebody, right? We could put this on a model. And that's what we'll do when we come back for a break. So let me stop the share. Your screen. Wait, I paused. Let's go back to Photoshop now. Oh, wait, sorry. I forgot to do something first. I got to get it out of here. I have it as an AI. Now, in actuality, you can open up an AI. So I think I'll do that. I'm going to keep it in the AI, but you can do this. You can come up here to export. Let's do this. We'll do this. We'll do both. I like to do things both because I like to see who's going to, what methodology is going to give me the best resolution. So I can I can turn my AI directly into a Photoshop file. See, it's right down here, Photoshop. And where am I? I'm in the right place. Sometimes, you always have to check that. Sometimes it throws you somewhere else. And okay, so now it's asking me, right? I want 300. No, you don't have to write the layers. Don't do that. And then say, okay. I don't want all those paths. Don't write the layers. Okay. All right, now stop the share. Let's go into Photoshop. Okay. So now what I do still like about this guy that I did down here, that I would go back to if I had more time, if I wasn't, on videotaping and putting everyone to sleep, is I would paint and get myself a nice globular, strong pattern that is, I mean, the image trace kind of does a nice effect because it's not perfect, but I really would like to see, because knits are perfect. I knit myself. So I would really like to get the way the knits are. And that could be just looking for a knit pattern. That's what I would do now that I thought of it. It's like, there's tons of knit patterns in black and white. I would use that too. But let's open up that other one. All right, so this was the knit swatch. I think this is the one. What time is it? 4:10. Yep, this is the one. That's why I like to look at details. Tells me exactly. And I'm opening up the PSD. There we have it. And when you do the canvas, so when you're in Photoshop, canvas right up here is actually your paper. So let's make it be 13 by 19 in the center. And you see, now I have my layer, and I could come up here to my layer styles, which is basically layer effects, and put a nice drop shadow. And let's get that drop shadow to be, all your drop shadow should always be solid black, no gray. Let the transparencies do, and you can change the angle. And you can make it bigger or a harder edge. The spread is what you want. And bring it down. Yeah, that's what you do. And the distance, there. And so then this way we can map that on. And so that's why what you do is, zoom key, what you do is you really work in Illustrator, but then you bring it into Photoshop to finish off, all the little nuances like drop shadows, or, you could highlight, you could put like a cast of light on it. So it looks like there's a spotlight on it. And that's why people, get hired just to do Photoshop. So that came out well. And look at the resolution. I completely enlarged this very big. And, I could actually get this to be more of a little messier, a little bit more bitmappy. It looks too much, but it'll look really nice when we bring it onto the photograph. So let me stop.